As Earth's fleet took control of the flagship, Ryan and Kalira stood together, watching the stars. "We did it," Kalira said, a smile breaking through her exhaustion. Ryan looked up, seeing the planets around them, knowing they had a chance to rebuild. "Yes, we did." The Draviks had been defeated. Earth had struck first, and won. The stars above Earth's moon shone bright and peaceful. The battle against the Draviks was over. The enemy was defeated, their fleet broken, their power shattered. Earth had not just survived, they had risen. Ryan stood on the observation deck of the flagship, the same ship where just days ago he had led the final charge against the Draviks' commander. Now, Earth's soldiers and their new allies, the Nithari, were rebuilding. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Kalira stood beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon. "We've won," she said quietly. Ryan nodded, his expression calm, but a deep weight rested on his shoulders. The fight had been hard, and it had cost them much. So many had died, human and alien alike. The pain of those losses would never fade. But today, there was peace. "It's not over," Ryan replied. "We've won this battle. But we have to keep fighting, to rebuild what was broken, to make sure the Draviks never come back." Kalira looked at him, a mixture of hope and gratitude in her eyes. "You're right, but for now, we can rest." The sound of footsteps approached. The general, who had been with Ryan every step of the way, stepped forward. His face was hard, but his eyes showed relief. "Captain Ryan," the general said, his voice firm but respectful. "You led us to victory. Earth will never forget what you did." Ryan stood tall, but he didn't let the praise fill him. "We did this together, all of us." The general's lips curled into a small smile. A true leader never forgets that. Kalira turned to Ryan, her eyes softening. "You've earned your place in history, but I think it's time for us to create a new future. For our people, for the galaxy." Ryan glanced at her, feeling a sense of calm he had never known before. "Yes," he said. "It's time to move forward." As the days passed, Earth and the Nithari worked side by side, repairing the damage the Draviks had done. The cities that had been destroyed were rebuilt. The people who had suffered now had hope. And most importantly, new alliances were forged, stronger than ever before. Ryan, though still recovering from his injuries, took his place in the new Earth Nithari Council. He helped lead efforts to form a united defense force. The galaxy was vast, and the Draviks were not the only threat out there. Earth had made allies, but they needed to stay strong, together. Kalira returned to her homeworld, Nithar, to help guide her people in the rebuilding process. Her connection to Earth was now unbreakable. Together, they had shown the universe that humanity was not weak. They had fought, and they had won. Ryan stood once more in front of the council, his body healed but his mind forever marked by the war. He looked around at the faces of the leaders from other planets, faces that had once been strangers. Now, they were family. "We will never forget," he said, "what we lost, what we sacrificed, but we will also never forget what we gained. Freedom, peace, and a future where we all stand together." The room was silent for a moment. Then, one by one, the leaders stood and applauded, not for Ryan, but for humanity, for the galaxy, for the future they now had. Kalira's message echoed through his mind as the applause grew louder. This is just the beginning. And in that moment, Ryan knew she was right. The battle was over, but the war for peace had only begun. The end. The war was over. At least, that's what everyone said. But for Ray, a human soldier far from Earth, the war was still very real. He stood on a silent, dead planet, surrounded by broken buildings and black skies. Dust filled the air. Nothing grew here. The ground was cold, the sky always gray. Life had left this place long ago. Ray was not supposed to be here anymore. His mission was complete. His team had left days ago. They flew back to the ship, ready to return to Earth. But Ray stayed behind. He stayed for one reason: the alien queen. She was the last of her kind. Her people had once lived on many planets. They were peaceful, smart, and full of light. But war had taken everything from them. Now, only she remained. Small, weak, but with deep, glowing eyes that held thousands of years of memories. She couldn't speak with words like humans did, but her eyes said everything. They spoke of sadness, of pain, of hope. Ray didn't know why, but he felt something strong inside him when he looked at her. Maybe it was guilt, maybe duty, or maybe something more. He had seen his team leave her behind. They didn't care. "She's not human," they said. "Not our problem." But Ray couldn't walk away. Something inside him told him to stay, to protect her, to make sure her story did not end here. Every day they moved from place to place, hiding from the enemy. The enemy wasn't human either. They were hunters, cold, cruel, and fast. They wanted to kill the queen. She carried something powerful in her blood. If they killed her, they could destroy her whole race forever. That's what they wanted, to wipe her kind from the stars. Ray was tired. His body ached. He was running out of food, out of water, and out of time. But he didn't complain. Every night, he sat beside the queen in silence. She would look at him with those glowing eyes, and somehow, he knew, she trusted him. Then, one night, everything changed. It was cold. The wind howled through the ruins. Ray and the queen were resting inside a broken tower. Ray had placed sensors around them to warn of any movement, but the enemy was clever. They came without sound, without light, shadows in the dark. Ray heard the first arrow before he saw it. It flew past his face and hit the wall behind him. He jumped to his feet, pulling his weapon. But it was too late. They were surrounded. Arrows rained down like fire from all sides. Ray didn't think. He acted. He turned to the queen and ran toward her. She was standing still, frozen with fear. More arrows flew. Ray threw himself in front of her. One arrow hit his back, then another, then 3 more. He fell to his knees. Blood ran down his side. But he didn't move away. He covered the queen with his own body, taking every arrow meant for her. The pain was sharp. He could feel his heartbeat slowing down. The world around him was starting to blur. He looked up at the queen. She hadn't moved. Her eyes were wide, glowing brighter than ever. She stepped closer and placed her hand on his chest. Ray felt something warm enter his body. It was not human. It was energy, pure and alive. It rushed through his veins like fire and ice at the same time. His heart started beating faster. His eyes widened. His skin burned, then cooled. The arrows in his back began to dissolve. The pain started to fade. He looked at the queen, confused. She was glowing. Her hand on his chest was bright with blue light. She was giving him something. Something powerful. Something ancient. Ray tried to speak, but no words came. His body felt heavy. His vision was fading again. But before he lost consciousness, one last thought crossed his mind. I did my part. And then, darkness. Ray opened his eyes slowly. His body felt strange. The pain from the arrows was gone. He was no longer bleeding. His skin had no cuts, no wounds. It was like the attack had never happened. He sat up with a gasp, breathing fast. His heart was racing. His hands were shaking, but not from fear, from energy. He looked around. They were no longer in the tower ruins. They were in a cave, a quiet, hidden place deep underground. The walls glowed softly with blue crystals. Strange vines covered the stone, and they pulsed with light, like they were alive. Ray looked to his side. The alien queen was sitting beside him, watching him carefully. Her glowing eyes were softer now. She reached out and touched his arm. A wave of calm ran through him. In his mind, he heard a voice, not with words, but with feeling. She was saying, "You are safe now." A strange signal came from deep space. It was weak and broken, but it kept repeating. No one could understand the message. It wasn't in any human language. The signal came from a far and unknown part of the galaxy. Most people on Earth ignored it. Some said it was just space noise. But the military knew better. Captain Ryan was Earth's best soldier. He had fought in many wars. He never failed. He was strong, calm, and smart. The leaders of Earth called him in. They gave him a simple order: find the source of the signal. Report back. Do not engage. Ryan left alone in a fast and powerful ship. It was made for deep space missions. He passed dead stars, glowing clouds, and black holes. After 2 days of flying, the signal grew stronger. It was coming from a dying planet near a red sun. As his ship got closer, Ryan saw something shocking. The planet was not empty. It was burning. From space, he could see smoke, fire, and war. 2 alien armies were fighting. One side had tall, silver-armored soldiers. They looked sharp and cruel. The other side looked weaker. Their ships were broken. Their weapons were old. They were trying to escape. Ryan scanned the area. The signal came from the middle of the battle. He had no orders to land, but something inside him said he must. He didn't know why. He just felt it. He took the ship down fast. Missiles flew around him. Explosions shook the ground. As he landed, a large shadow moved above him. A warship hovered in the sky. Its lights turned toward him, but it didn't shoot. Strangely, the enemy soldiers stopped for a moment. They looked at his ship but did not attack. They whispered something in their alien tongue. Then they moved back. Some seemed afraid. Ryan stepped out. The air was dry and hot. The ground cracked under his boots. He looked around. Bodies were everywhere. Alien blood stained the sand. He had no backup, no map, no plan. But he moved forward. A burning ship lay ahead. It was still smoking. Beside it, he saw movement. He raised his weapon, careful. Then he saw her. She was different. Her body was thin and tall. Her skin was pale blue, glowing faintly. Her armor was damaged. She was hurt, bleeding from her side. Her eyes were large and full of fear, but also strength. She looked like a queen. No, she was a queen. Ryan could feel it. Not just in the way she stood, but in how the other aliens reacted around her. She tried to speak, but her voice was soft and broken. Ryan knelt beside her and gave her water. She touched a small device on her wrist. It blinked and began to speak in simple English. "Help. They will kill. All of us. They come for all worlds." Ryan looked up. The silver-armored enemy was closing in, quietly, slowly, like hunters. He turned back to her. "Why are they after you?" Her translator spoke again. "Because." I said no. She fell silent. Suddenly, an arrow shot into the ground near them. It burned the sand. A warning. Ryan stood and fired a warning shot back. The enemy didn't flinch. The queen reached out and grabbed his hand. Her fingers were cold. "Earth is next. They found your world." Ryan's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" She looked up at the sky. "They destroy. They take. They use. My planet was only the start." Ryan knew he should leave. He had no orders to fight. This wasn't Earth's war. But he also knew he couldn't walk away. He had seen too many people fall because others stayed silent. He had seen good lives lost while the strong turned their backs. He looked at the enemy, then back at the queen. "You're not dying today," he said. He picked her up and ran. Energy blasts followed. The ground exploded behind them. He dodged left, jumped over broken metal, and slid under a burning beam. He found cover inside a broken tower. The queen coughed but was still alive. More enemy ships arrived in the sky. Rayan knew they were hunting her. But he also knew something else. This was not just a small war on a forgotten planet. This was bigger. The Queen's warning was real. Earth was in danger. The signal wasn't a cry for help. It was a warning. And Captain Ryan had just walked into the first battle of a war that no one on Earth even knew had started. They moved again, staying low and silent. The Queen led him through an old tunnel, half covered by sand and vines. Inside, it was dark. But Ray could see clearly. His eyes had changed. The world was brighter in the dark. Every wall, every crack, every step. He saw it all. Suddenly, he stopped. He raised his hand. Footsteps. Not one. Not two. A group. They were coming down the tunnel. Ray pushed the Queen behind a wall and stepped forward. His body moved without fear. A shadow appeared. Then another. Thin, tall hunters with black armor and long weapons. They looked human but weren't. Their faces had no eyes, just smooth masks. Ray didn't wait. He jumped forward, faster than he ever moved before. He hit the first hunter with a punch. The body flew back and hit the wall. The second raised its weapon. But Ray grabbed it, snapped it in half, and kicked the enemy across the tunnel. He didn't need a gun now. His hands were weapons. His body was a storm. But then, one of the hunters did something strange. It pulled out a small silver box and pressed it. Pain shot through Ray's body. He dropped to his knees, gasping. The glowing veins in his arms turned red. Something was burning inside him. The Queen screamed, a sound not from her mouth, but in his mind. She ran forward and placed both hands on his head. A blue light spread from her skin to his. The pain stopped. The red glow faded. The silver box broke apart on its own. Ray stood again, breathing hard. "They're trying to control me," he said. The Queen nodded. "The power inside you is not just life. It is a key. If they take it, they can control all of us." Ray realized something terrible. "I'm not just protecting you anymore," he said. "You gave me something they've been trying to get for years." He looked at the broken silver box. "This isn't a hunt anymore. It's a war for control." They left the tunnel quickly. The machines were getting closer. Ray could feel their footsteps in the ground. The monsters were sniffing the air. They were being tracked. But there was hope. The Queen told him, through images in his mind, about a place far away. A hidden gate. A place built long ago by her people. It was a kind of portal. A door to another world. A safe world where the last of her kind were sleeping in deep stasis. If they reached the gate, she could awaken them. Her race could live again. Ray nodded. "Then we run until we find it. And we don't stop." As they moved, Ray began hearing whispers. At first, he thought they were from the Queen. But they were not. They were from inside him. Voices, thoughts, memories. He saw flashes, stars being born, planets rising and falling, beams of light and shadow. He saw ancient wars, peaceful worlds, deep love, deep pain. He fell to his knees again, holding his head. The Queen stood beside him, calm. "You are changing," she told him silently. Ray looked up, scared. Into what? But she didn't answer, because even she didn't know. The sky turned darker as Ray and the alien Queen climbed through the burned hills. Storm clouds gathered above, swirling like black smoke. Lightning flashed across the sky, but it wasn't natural. It was coming from machines, war machines. The enemy was getting closer. Ray could feel them behind, like fire crawling up his back. The hunters were not resting. The beasts were faster now. And the machines, they were scanning the land, sending out pulses like radar, searching for any sign of life. Ray and the Queen moved fast. They passed through old roads, shattered buildings, and dry rivers. Everything around them was broken, dead. But still, the Queen walked with hope in her eyes. She kept sending Ray images, memories of the gate. The place where her people slept, hidden deep under the planet. The place they needed to reach. Captain Ryan woke up to bright lights and soft beeping sounds. The air was clean. The floor was smooth metal. He was inside a human medical ship. His body was covered in bandages. Machines kept him alive. He tried to move, but pain shot through his chest and leg. A nurse saw him and called the doctor. They rushed over. "You're lucky to be alive," the doctor said. "You had 3 arrows in your body, broken ribs, a punctured lung, but you're healing." Ryan looked around. "Where's the Queen?" "She's safe," the nurse said. "She hasn't left your side since you got here." The door opened. Queen Kalira stepped in. She looked stronger now. Her wounds were healing too. She wore a simple robe, not royal armor. Her eyes softened when she saw Ryan awake. "You lived," she said. He smiled. "Told you. I'm hard to kill." Kalira sat beside him. "Your people arrived just in time. They saved us both." Ryan nodded. "That signal you sent, they heard it." "Yes. And more than that, your leaders now know what the Draviks really are." Ryan sat up slowly. "Then Earth needs to prepare, because they're coming." Kalira looked serious. "They won't stop. Not until every world bows to them. My people resisted. Now we are almost gone. Earth must choose." A few days later, Ryan was strong enough to walk. He met with Earth's military leaders in the command room of the ship. Holograms of planets floated in the air. Battle plans covered the screens. The general looked at Ryan. "You did more than what we asked. You found the truth. The Draviks are a threat to all of us." Ryan spoke clearly. "They'll hit Earth soon. If we wait, they'll destroy our cities before we can fight back." The general nodded. "We agree. That's why we've sent scouts to follow their fleet. We're building defenses on the Moon and Mars." Ryan turned to a map of the Nithari planet. "But we can't just defend. We need to push back. Hit them first." The room fell silent. Kalira stepped forward. "He's right. I know where their forward base is. It's the heart of their control in this part of the galaxy." Ryan looked at the general. "Let me lead a strike. A small team. We get in, destroy their base, and weaken their attack plans." The general raised an eyebrow. "You just recovered from nearly dying." Ryan's eyes burned with fire. "I'm still breathing." "That's enough." The general gave a slow nod. "Then go." 2 days later, Ryan stood in front of a small group of elite human soldiers. They wore dark armor and carried heavy weapons. Beside them stood Queen Kalira, now back in light battle armor. Her wounds had fully healed. Her spirit had not broken. The mission was simple: enter the Dravik's base, destroy the command core, and escape alive. As their ship approached the enemy planet, the crew stayed silent. Everyone knew the risks. This wasn't just another fight. This was a message. Earth fights back. They landed in the dark. The air was heavy. Dravik's patrols moved nearby. Ryan led the team through a broken canyon. They passed old ruins and burning trees. The ground was black with ash. They reached the outer wall of the Dravik's base. Towers stood tall, guarded by machines and snipers. Kalira pointed to a small vent. "We enter there. It leads straight to the command room." One by one, they crawled through the tunnel. It was narrow and full of dust. Inside, the base was cold and clean. The walls glowed red. Dravik soldiers marched in perfect lines. Ryan's team split up. Some planted explosives. Others hacked into the system. Suddenly, an alarm blared. "They found us," shouted one soldier. Gunfire started. The base shook. Ryan ran straight to the control room, with Kalira behind him. Blasts flew past them. One soldier fell. Another was caught in an explosion. Ryan kicked open the door to the command core. A giant machine stood in the middle. It glowed with energy. "This is it," Kalira said. "Destroy that, and their fleet loses control." Ryan set the charges, but the Draviks arrived, 10 of them, all armed. He stood in front of the machine, alone. Kalira yelled, "You'll die." He didn't move. The Dravik's leader stepped forward. "One man? You stand alone." Ryan wiped blood from his face. "That's the mistake you always make." Then he hit the detonator. The blast shook the mountain. Everything turned to fire and light. But from the smoke, a figure crawled out. It was Ryan. Burned, bloody, but alive. Kalira reached him and held him up. "You're insane." He smiled weakly. "You're welcome." Behind them, the Dravik's base burned. Their controls shattered. Ryan had done it. One man stood against the dark, and one. Ray stared at her. What did you do to me?" he whispered. The Queen tilted her head. She placed her hand on his chest again, over his heart. A light appeared again, but softer this time. Ray felt warmth, power, and something else, connection. He stood slowly. His body felt light, strong, too strong. He looked down at his hands. His skin was glowing faintly. His muscles were tighter. His vision had changed. He could see things in the dark. He could hear the sound of water dripping far away, even the heartbeat of a small insect in the cave. Something inside him had changed. He was no longer just human. "What am I?" Ray asked, mostly to himself. The Queen stood with him. She looked calm, but there was sadness in her eyes. She had given him something, a piece of her own life, her own power, maybe even her soul. He could feel it now, deep inside his body. He wasn't alone anymore. Her thoughts were near his thoughts. Her fear, her strength, her memories, they lived in him now. Ray stepped out of the cave and looked at the sky. The world above was still dark. Cold winds blew across the dead land. He could sense something strange now. Movement, danger. Even though he couldn't see anyone, he felt them. Something, or someone, was hunting them again. He turned to the Queen. "They're coming," he said. She nodded. She had felt it too. Ray checked his weapon. He didn't have much left. Just a few power cells, a broken blade, and his fists. But now he had something more. Something new in his blood. He didn't know how to use it yet, but he knew it was there. They began to move, slowly, carefully through broken paths and silent ruins. Every step was watched. Every shadow felt alive. The hunters were still out there. And this time, they weren't alone. As they crossed an old battlefield, Ray saw burned machines and bones from both sides, human and alien. War had destroyed this world. The Queen walked slowly, her eyes scanning the dead land. She looked sad again. Ray paused. He turned to her. "Why me?" he asked. "Why did you save me?" The Queen did not speak, but in his mind, he felt her answer. Not words, but images. He saw her people running from fire. He saw tall machines burning forests. He saw her family fall. And then, he saw himself. A vision. Long ago, her people had seen a warrior, a stranger, a protector from the stars. That warrior was Ray. He shook his head in disbelief. "I'm just a soldier," he said. But deep inside, something else said no. "You are more now." As they kept walking, Ray felt the power in him growing. He could feel the land, the air, even the thoughts of the hunters nearby. Something inside him was waking up. And then he felt something stronger. The hunters were not just coming. They were bringing something new, something big, something made to kill both human and alien. Something that could end them both. Ray stopped and looked at the sky again. It was too quiet. The wind had stopped. The Queen placed her hand on his shoulder. In his mind, he heard one word. Run. Ray and the alien Queen ran across the dead land, their feet crunching over ash and broken stone. The wind had gone quiet. That was never a good sign. It meant the enemy was close. Ray didn't know how he knew this, but he felt it in his bones, like a warning deep inside his blood. His body moved faster than before, stronger, smoother. He didn't feel tired. Every step was light, every breath controlled. The Queen ran beside him. She was fast too, but not because of power, because of fear. She knew what was coming. They reached a broken wall and hid behind it. Ray looked over the edge. In the distance, on the black hills, machines moved. Tall machines, walking slowly like metal giants. And behind them, creatures. Big ones, not human, not fully alien. They looked like beasts, but their skin had wires. Their eyes were red lights. The enemy had built monsters. Ray clenched his fists. "They're not just hunting," he said. "They're testing something." The Queen touched his arm. In his mind, her voice came again. "They want you now." Ray looked at her, confused. "Me?" She nodded. "They felt the power I gave you. Now they want it too." Ray looked at his hands. They were glowing again, just a little. He didn't understand what this power was. He couldn't control it. But the enemy had noticed. And now, they were not after just the Queen. They were after him too.